Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the top metas in the current Warzone Season 5, I guess week 2. And I got a couple different classes for you and variations of those classes. So if you find this helpful, or if you end up shredding with it, make sure you like and follow. Have a good day. Okay, so here's my top meta loadout. I go to on a daily right now, every single game. The UGM, if you have the imperative blueprint, it's going to help you out a lot if this gun's not unlocked. Keep that in mind. Gives you pretty much everything that you need off the rip here, the imperative. And that being said, the attachments that you're going to want to use in general, not just through the imperative, this is the meta attachments. MX Silencer, the Bernard XL 214 736 millimeter. It's going to give you recoil control, bullet velocity, and it's not taking away any damage. That's the big thing here. There's no damage penalty or recoil penalty. We're using it 3 to 6 times. I'm on controller. That's why I use it. I'm going to use that 3 to 6 times. It's always my go-to for my assault rifle. The stock that we're using is the Mercier WT Anchor. You'll see that it's got a lot of recoil control. The underbarrel is going to have the M1930 strife angled. I mean, you might be able to use something else, but I want that horizontal recoil control, and I'm not really worried about the ADS time that I'm losing. We got the 6.5 millimeter Secure 125 round box. It's going to give us more recoil control, more rate of fire. And we're losing a little bit of bullet velocity and damage range, but that's all right. The round, we already make up for that elsewhere, and we're getting way more ammo than any of the other magazines can ever give us. So let it fly. Lengthen bullets, obviously. Bullet velocity increase. All ARs, I'm using hatch grip right now for that recoil control and flinch resistance with no negatives associated with that. So that's a good thing. The perk is tight grip. You got some other options here, like brace and surveil, nerves of steel, but I'm using tight grip. I'm going to stand by that for the time being. And then we got fully loaded. For the Armor Guerra, my #1 SMG, we're going recoil boost for that rate of fire. The body 570. That's what I'm using for my barrel. It's a longer barrel. It's not as movement friendly, but it's definitely makes it viable when you're out of close range and you can't switch to your other weapon. So it's got the highly accurate controllable barrel, headshot bonus damage multiplier. So if you're hitting those headies, that's going to be outstanding whether you're close or at range, like a little bit further range. And then you got bullet velocity to go with it. Slate reflector, and then we got the Amaretto TA skeletal, and that's for your movement right there. We're making up for some movement there. We're not taking any kind of damage or range penalties, luckily. And then we got the SG98 Compact as your underbarrel. Other people might be using other things, and that's fine. I'm going to continue to use this for my aim, my more centered aiming with the reduced scope, sway and gun bob. And then I also get some movement speed out of it. So that, no cons either. There's no negative. There's nothing being taken away with that, which also makes that a better attachment, if you ask me. We got the 9mm 60 round mag. It's standard mag. We're not taking any kind of damage or fire rate penalties or buffs. It does the trick by itself. Now your ammo is gonna be up to you. Your ammunition. A lot of people are gonna say use subsonic, and that is a great. Munition type. It keeps you invisible. It keeps your enemy guessing without a silencer. And I definitely recommend using that as well. We also have the hollow points for increased limb damage. That's a good option. Takes away some of your damage range. But lengthened or subsonic would be the two that I recommend for you, and that's going to be up to you to decide. For the rear grip, we're using tape. There's no negatives associated with this rear grip, and we only have positives for the movement speed. Highly recommend it. And then for the perks, we got steady, ADS firing movement speed. That's a good one to have. You could also use recoil control. That's a good one. Or maybe you want to use vital, which could increase your torso damage, but also takes away your, some of your accuracy and your control, your recoil control. So that'll be up to you to make that decision. So now we're moving on to probably the second best meta here, which I would say is the Automaton and the Blixen. And the Blixen's got a couple different variations regarding the barrel, but the Automaton really has only one class, and then you swap out the underbarrel grip, depending on what you want. So hopping into the Automaton, we had the MX silencer, ZAC 600. That's going to give you an easier shot. It's going to keep you centered. Doesn't give you any range or damage penalties. 3 to 6 times, of course. The stock is the Anastasia padded. It gives you the better accuracy and recoil control. Even gives you some flinch resistance. Still no range or damage nerfs on that. And then this is where you're going to come into some different options you have. So the bipod is what everybody's touting about. If you're close to medium range, you can run a gun with this. It's not going to be an issue you're going to fry. When you start to get to medium long range, you're going to want to crouch, get mounted, or go prone, and then you have a straight up laser. If you're standing and taking long range shots, it's going to be harder to hit those shots. So I'm going to go by the bipod, and if you want to use one of the other ones, that's going to be entirely up to you. More power to you. I just don't know which one you would use. Magazine, we have the 6.5 Sakura 75 round mag. That's just going to give you the largest magazine in the weapon, and it doesn't give you any kind of nerfs or buffs to damage range or damage in general. Lengthened rounds, of course. The rear grip is going to be the hatched. As I said before, the hatched, if you ask me, is the best AR rear grip, and I'm going to continue to stick with that. And then for perk number 1, we got the tight grip. And then perk number 2, fully loaded. No surprises there. Now, here's where we come into the first variation of the Blixen that I'm currently running. Recoil booster for added rate of fire. This version has the Bergstrom 17-inch, which gives you higher recoil control and accuracy, bullet velocity, and flinch. Takes away some of your movement speed. Slate reflector, remove stock so we can gain some of that movement speed back. The underbarrel, we're using the hand stop for recoil control, takes away some of the hip fire. We might use the SG98 compact as well. That's going to be up to you. The compact's more for movement speed, which I like to use that compact for the movement speed. And then both the variations are going to have the 7.62 Gorenko 54 round magazine, and that's going to give you better accuracy control and recoil, increased torso damage, and does take away some bullet velocity and range, but this is a close range weapon anyways, and hopefully you can get the job done as is. There's no other magazine that you'd want. A taped grip for your SMGs, as I said before, and that's just for movement speeds. And then perk number 1, fleet, perk number 2, quick. Now, the second variation of this Blixen has the shorter barrel Johnson 9-inch RMK. And you're going to see the difference here is higher damage range, higher bullet velocity. But you're taking away headshot damage bonuses. You're getting a nerf to that, and vice versa. The Bergstrom has no negatives or repercussions in regards to the higher bullet velocity. It's just going to take away movement speed, really. And then this is probably my more interesting class setup here, my last class. We have the STG, which is one of my mainstays over the last couple months. When everything's changing, the STG has been able to be a really good gun when I don't know what to use. So we got the MX silencer, VDD 760mm, gives you that better accuracy, recoil control, damage range, bullet velocity. No cons really there besides movement speed, but it's an AR. We expect that. 3 to 6 times scope. We're using that, of course. The VDD weighted accuracy, flinch resistant, recoil control, aiming stability. That's all what we want, and we're just losing some mobility. And we expected that for an AR. The underbarrel, we're using the strife angle. That's for the straight up horizontal recoil control. We're losing some movement speed there. That's okay. This is all going to benefit you at range. The magazine you want to use is the 7.62 Gorenko 50 round. You're getting a higher rate of fire, better recoil control and accuracy, and you're losing some damage. But besides that, it still makes this gun a monster, and I highly recommend using that. Lengthened bullets, hatch grip as usual for the recoil control. Nerves of steel, that's the one that I would use personally, but you also have focus and vital. I mean, that's up to you, but nerves of steel is pretty good, fully loaded. And then the PPSH. This is an interesting class, the PPSH. This is a hipfire PPSH, and I think it's more viable for mouse and keyboard more than controller players. I mean, for a controller player, you have to have a higher level of skill if you're going to use the hipfire. For mouse and keyboard, not so much. You don't have to have as much skill. It makes it easier to use. So we got the recoil booster. We got the Kavalovskaya 230 millimeter. It gives you the hipfire accuracy and the fire rate with the recoil control. That's outstanding. Slate reflector, remove stock for mobility. The underbarrel, now you got a couple different options here. A lot of people are going to say use the Carver, takes away your ADS. This is an SMG. It's not a long range weapon. You need to be able to react quickly. So you're either going to want to use the Carver or you want to use the M1915 Steady, which has no cons, gives you the hipfire accuracy and the recoil control. Well, that's currently what I would rock. You got the 8mm Nambu 71 round magazine. Increases the rate of fire, gives you the recoil control and extended magazine. Takes away some bullet velocity and damage. Not a big deal. This thing's going to be sending rounds at a very high rate of speed. Like I said before, subsonic gives you the invisibility without having a silencer. You could use that or the lengthened or the hollow points to increase the limb damage. The rear grip, we're going to change up the rear grip. Usually, like I said, we would use the tape for ADS and movement speed, but this is a hipfire build SMG, so we're going to use the pine tar with the recoil control and the hipfire accuracy. Takes away a little bit of the ADS speed, but that's okay. I'm going to use tight grip for accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, and that's not for ADS, that's just sustained fire in general, so that's good. And then quick sprint speed for our second one. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So this is the meta class here, and it's the UGM as the primary, 3-6 times scope, 125 round mag. And then we got the Armaguera. That's my current favorite SMG. It's been really good. I'm gonna stick with it. So here's the UGM's recoil pattern standing up. I'm not using a bipod, and I'm not gonna pull back on the stick. So this is what it's gonna look like.
Target is down. Marvelous.
That's actually beautiful right there. And here's me pulling back on the stick as we do this. I'm going to fight the recoil this time. Recoil control. I'm barely even having to pull down. This thing's a beam. And it's going to be a beam at range. It might not hit as hard as other ARs at range, but the rate of fire and the bullet velocity is going to make sure that the time to kill is just as quick, as long as you're hitting those shots, which you will. And then we have the SMG, the Armaguera. This is absolutely my #1 SMG right now. I've went with the longer barrel, and I think that's what most people would do. So here's what the recoil looks like, not being fought. I'm just gonna let it go. And this current attachment setup is for bonus headshot damage. So if you're hitting those headies, they're gonna die pretty damn quick. And here's what it looks like when I'm fighting the recoil. Still pretty damn good. High rate of fire, high damage. Hits hard. I can tell you that from experience. So this is my go-to class. This is what I would absolutely use. Alright, here is the Automaton and the Blixen. And this is only one variant of the Blixen that we're going to have built. It's with the longer barrel. So let's start with the Automaton. We're going to be using the bipod, and it's been pretty OP lately for crouched or mounted or prone. So this is what's going to look like when you're standing up from close range. This is just its regular recoil pattern here. That's the regular recoil pattern. That's what that looks like. Let's see what it looks like when we're crouched. Let's see if that changes when we're prone. I imagine mounting and then we got the Blixen. Now this is not your movement speed Blixen. It's the longer barrel. Hypothetically, we're going to be hitting people harder with this. And we'll look at the recoil, but the recoil doesn't really matter. The Blixen's recoil got nerfed anyway. So that still was good. I like it. But is the rate of fire going to be good enough up close? And that's something that you have to decide. This is the shorter barrel, the Johnson. I think it's the 9-inch Johnson. Johansson barrel on the Blixen. And it's really going to be for your movement speed, live canceling, stimming, you're trying to fucking finesse some motherfuckers. And let's just see what the recoil looks like. So it's definitely got more recoil.
Area
you have to figure out whether or not you want to use this weapon up close and personal versus long barrel. The Blixen is the So now we're going to talk about the STG, and the STG has been a good assault rifle to me in the Vanguard days so far. You know, it came out soft and then they gave it some buffs. And it's a good weapon at range, even though it's received some nerfs recently. It kind of feels like you're shooting pillows at points, especially if they have serpentine. So this is what that recoil is going to look like. This is me standing. Laying it down. I'm not crashing forward or anything. You know, that's not that bad. Let's look at it crouched as well. That's even better. I mean, this gun, if you ask me, this gun is absolutely still viable if you wanted to use it. Not my #1 pick, but I still think it's a good gun. Now, something that I haven't really used
Extraction standing by. Mark an LZ for pickup.
Always OP for that. We've used it before. Like I said, it's been a while. I have not using it now, but here's a JGOG class that has been posted recently in the last 24 hours. I think it's definitely a hipfire beat. I think hipfire is just more of a commodity as a mouse and keyboard player rather than the average controller player. That's just my opinion, but it can still be good. So here's what it looks like without me pulling back on the stick. It's just the regular recoil pattern. I mean, that's fucking good. And then here's the recoil pattern when I'm pulling back. That's still really good. I might actually have to try it out again. You know, we'll see what happens. But I mean, that's a good class. Very high rate of fire. We just don't know how hard it hits.